Hello, it's Joe and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time. I think my last video was summer of 2020, so it's been a while, but I was in the mood to film something today and I had the opportunity because I had a free house and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get out the camera and talk about some books because I've missed it a little bit, not that much, otherwise I would have done it before now, but here I am doing it now. I will not be promising that I'm going to be doing regular videos from now on. In fact, this might be the last you see of me for another 2 years or so, but this is what you're getting for now. And if you're here watching this video, thank you very much, I appreciate it. So as you can tell by the title, in this video I am going to be talking about the best books that I've read since the pandemic began, or rather the best books that I've read since I last made a video. So without further ado, we're just going to get right into them because I don't want this to be a lengthy video whatsoever. Also, I keep having to remind myself to look at the camera and not myself, so if I do sometimes look at myself instead of the camera, I apologise. So I've actually not been reading all that much since last I made a video. I mean, I've probably read more than the average person who doesn't read much, but compared to the rest of BookTube, I've definitely been in a bit of a slump for the past 2 years. So I've only got like a handful of books to talk about in this video. The first of which is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This book follows a trans boy named Yadriel who is not accepted by his family and wants to prove himself to be a true brujo. So he tries summoning the ghost of his cousin, but ends up summoning the ghost of one of his classmates who he didn't even know was dead. And so this ghost kind of follows him around for the rest of the book, and Yadriel has to basically find out how he's died and what's happened to him. But of course it isn't as simple as that, and Yadriel actually ends up falling for this ghost boy, which complicates things very much, as you can probably imagine. I'm pretty sure this is Aiden Thomas's debut, and if I am correct in saying that, in fact, does it say? Yes, it does say on the back that it's a debut novel, so well done to Aiden Thomas for putting out this absolutely incredible debut. The magic system is one of the best things about this book for me. It's just really interesting, and the characters felt real, and the relationships with each other felt real and complex and really interesting, and definitely kept me hooked. Don't get me wrong, the plot of the book was really good, but I feel like if the characters weren't as interesting as they are, I would not have liked the book nearly as much based just on the plot. But yeah, overall I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 4 stars. I have written some notes which are down here if you see me keep looking down, and I forgot to write how many stars I've given each of these books, but I'm pretty sure this was like 4 or 4.5 stars, so yeah, definitely recommend this if you haven't read it already. Next up is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This is a classic children's book. A lot of you watching this, if anyone actually watches this, will probably have already read this book or watched the film or at least heard what it's about, but for those of you who don't know, it follows a young girl named Mary who was living in India when her parents sadly died, and so she's orphaned and she gets sent to live with a closest relative who lives in a manor house in England. While living in the manor house, she is very lonely until she discovers a secret garden that opens up a world of imagination for her and a couple of her friends that she's made while she's been living there. 2 words I would use to describe this book are charming and delightful. It's just one of those books that I read and it made me happy. There's nothing like too heavy in it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy books that can be quite heavy-handed, but this was definitely not that. It was a very light read, very easy to get into once I got used to the old-timey writing style. There are definitely some things that don't hold up to today's standards in terms of like I don't know, wokeness, for lack of a better term, but it was published in 1911, so I feel like that's pretty obvious. Aside from that though, I loved the dynamic between the three main kids in the book. So Mary and the two friends that she makes. I feel like they make for a really interesting trio. My main takeaway from the book is that it made me happy. There's actually a little story about how I got this book. Basically, where I work, there's a bus stop just across the road, and I was sat at the bus stop and I turned and this book was sat there, and it had a key with it and a little note, and basically people had been going around leaving these books everywhere to promote the film that came out, I think last year or the year before, and so this book was just sitting there waiting for me to pick it up, and yeah, so it was like it was meant for me to read it, and I really enjoyed it, so it all worked out great. Pretty sure I gave this one 4 stars as well. Next up is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is a prequel to The Hate You Give, also by Angie Thomas, obviously. And it follows Star's father, Maverick, when he's a teenager. And it basically picks up from when he just finds out that he's going to be a father himself at the young age of 17. This book was the 3rd Angie Thomas book that I'd read. I'm pretty sure at the time of its release it was her 3rd book that she'd put out, the other 2 being The Hate You Give and On the Come Up. Jeez, that took me ages, I had to actually look at it over there. Anyway, The Hate You Give and On the Come Up. Loved both of those, especially The Hate You Give, but this one I feel, is it my favourite of the 3? It might be my favourite of the 3, but what it did is definitely solidified Angie Thomas as one of my favourite authors. And I'm not someone who really has favourite authors. I don't tend to go back to authors that regularly to be like, oh, they're my favourite, but Angie Thomas, she's one of them, for sure. The way that she writes families is unmatched, in my opinion. And every book of hers that I've read has made me cry, whether that's from sadness or happiness or some other emotion, but usually it makes me cry because of the family dynamic and something to do with that. She just writes families better than anyone else that I've read from. I'm pretty sure that she is soon to release a fantasy book which she's never put out before, so I'm really interested to see whether her family dynamics will translate into fantasy, or just how her writing in general translates to fantasy, because not naming any names, but some of the authors that went from contemporary to fantasy didn't do very well, in my opinion. That's all I'm gonna say, but I really hope that Angie Thomas's fantasy book is good, so fingers crossed for that. Next up is Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. Obviously, I'm only holding up Chain of Iron because if I held both of them, then my arm would really hurt because they are both very thick. I don't think I'm gonna even bother trying to explain the plot of these books. Basically, they're set in the world of Shadowhunters. There's demons, there's angels, there's vampires, there's werewolves, all of that going on in these books. But it's an urban fantasy / romance, I would say. And something that I don't really hear much about Cassandra Clare's books is that the writing is really good. Is that controversial? I haven't read all the Shadowhunters books. In fact, I've only read these 2 books and the Infernal Devices trilogy. So maybe her earlier books, the writing was bad, or I don't know, but I like the writing. I think she's a good writer. The characters were also well established, the plot was interesting, but if I'm being honest, I don't remember being hugely into the romances in these books. It has been a year or 2 since I've read them, so maybe I'm getting that wrong. But from this perspective of like a year or 2 later, I can't really remember any of the romances like jumping out at me. The thing that made me like these books so much is the drama. I mean, what is there to say? I live for the drama, and Cassandra Clare definitely provides it in such a juicy way. I don't know if juicy is the best word, but that's the word I'm going to use. Cassandra Clare writes juicy drama. But either way, I am very much looking forward to the third book to see how the drama unfolds even more. And speaking of drama, the next book that I'm talking about I actually got from the library, so I don't have it anymore, but it is How It All Blew Up by Arvin Ahmadi. I read this book in less than 12 hours, which for me is very rare. I have done it a handful of times over the years, but this one was the last time I did that. And I always think, if I've read this book that fast, I must have been like really engaged, and that I definitely was. So it follows an 18-year-old boy called Amir who runs off to Italy after he's been blackmailed into coming out. And I know you're probably thinking that the blackmail trope has been done so many times when it comes to like coming out as gay and stuff like that, and it has, you are right, but personally I really enjoyed the way Arvin Ahmadi wrote the trope in this book. It was a refreshing take for me, to me, and even aside from that, the book is just very dare I say messy and entertaining. Like the characters are like really flawed and make a lot of mistakes, but there's also a lot of heart in the book. So I really enjoy the balance of like messiness and wholesomeness. I don't know. It's definitely one of those books that pulls you in from the beginning and has you hooked right until the very end. I mean, how else did I read it in less than 12 hours? Okay, so the last book that I'm going to be talking about, we're actually fast forwarding quite a lot because all the other books that I've talked about so far I read like months and months ago, but this one is actually a recent read, and it's and it is Julia and the Shark by Kieran Millwood Hargrave and illustrated by Tom DeFreston, who is Kieran Millwood Hargraves' husband. So it's a husband and wife duo teamed up and made this book, and may I say, it's a very good book that they made. Well done. I'm saying well done like they're gonna watch this video. Anyway, this is a book about a young girl named Julia who moves from Cornwall to a very small island north of the coast of Scotland with her mum and dad. Her dad has to move there for like a work thing, and her mum is up there trying to find a Greenland shark. And that's basically the plot of the book. Like, it's a lot about Julia's mum trying to find this shark, or rather Julia waiting for her mum to come home from being out at sea looking for this shark. Mostly the book is about the characters and their relationships with each other, particularly Julia and her parents. A huge theme of this book is definitely mental health. Julia's mum is looking for this Greenland shark to the point of obsession, where it really negatively impacts her mental health, and we're seeing it from Julia's perspective as I think she's like 12 years old, so she's seeing her mum's mental health kind of spiral, and she's not really sure what's going on, but she can kind of put the pieces together and she's figuring it out as she goes along. And the shark becomes like a metaphor for like depression and stuff, and it's all very well done in my opinion, especially considering this is a children's book. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but this is targeted towards children, but it's definitely a book that anyone can read and enjoy. And the mental health aspect of the book is handled very gracefully, says me, who is not an expert in the matter. I just really love the illustrations in the book as well as the content of the book itself. So those are all the books that I have to talk about in this video. It feels really strange actually to be making a video again. As I say, I don't think it'll be a regular thing from now on. Eventually I do want to get back to it being a regular thing, but I'm thinking it's not going to be for a while, so stick around if you want, or don't. And to end the video off, I just want to recommend some TV shows and K-pop. I know it's like a really random thing to add in at the end, but some of these I've been enjoying like so much in the past couple of years, and I want to share them with you. So TV show wise, first and foremost for sure is Arcane on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, you really, really need to. It's one of the best TV shows I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so, so good. Watch it right now. Next is Euphoria. I have mentioned several times in this video that I enjoy drama and messiness, and Euphoria is definitely that, like times 100. It's very, very messy and dramatic, but also very entertaining, and it has some really important themes and important representations. So would I recommend it? I don't know. Maybe just watch one episode and see if it's your kind of vibe. If you don't like the first episode, then maybe don't continue. But if you do, then you're going to love the rest. Another TV show that I've been loving is Sex Education. I've loved it since it first came out, season 1, but season 3 is quite recent, and so it's fresh in my brain, and I really enjoyed it. Season 2 was kind of... it was good, but not quite as good as season 1, whereas I think season 3 has really picked up in quality from the previous seasons. So if you haven't watched Sex Education yet, then definitely recommend it to anyone and everyone. Another TV show I want to recommend is Young Royals, which is also on Netflix. I think 3 out of 4 of these so far have been on Netflix, so maybe get yourself a subscription if you can afford it, because it's definitely worth it, I think. But yeah, Young Royals is, I think it's in, is it in Dutch? Shit, it's in another language, a European language. I'm thinking Dutch or Swedish. I'm thinking Swedish. Shit. Oh god, I'm awful. But it's very good. Like Euphoria, I would say maybe give the first episode or 2 a go, and if it's not your vibe, then bin it off. But personally, I think anyone can enjoy it. And the last TV show is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I have gotten more and more into Star Wars the past few years, and after The Mandalorian came out, which I also recommend very highly, I wanted more, so I went and binged like all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars cartoon TV show, and it was very, very entertaining, and just opened up the world of Star Wars to me even more, and made me even more obsessed. So if you are kind of dipping your toes into the Star Wars universe, then I would definitely recommend the Clone Wars. But in terms of what order to watch it in, you'll have to Google that, because I don't know. And lastly, I want to recommend some K-pop to you, because I have discovered some new groups in the past couple of years. So first of all, Nine Muses, which is a girl group that has disbanded, sadly, but they're an older girl group, but they have a huge discography, and their songs are all incredible. And when I say all, like, I literally mean all of them are so good. Just put Nine Muses into YouTube and binge all of their music videos, and you won't regret it, I promise you. They're so good. I also want to recommend Pixie, who are my new, like, rookie faves. They debuted maybe... was it last year? Yeah, it was just over a year ago that they debuted, and they have already put out some of the best quality content that I've seen in K-pop, both in terms of like music and cinematography and choreography and the members' talents, and just everything about Pixie is incredible. So if you haven't checked them out, then definitely do so. Another group that I've gotten into is Big Mama, who is a very old K-pop group. I think they debuted in like 2003, and they've just got back together and released an album, and I had never heard of them, but I discovered them through YouTube. They did like a singing compilation medley type thing of all of their songs, and their vocals are the best I've heard in any group ever, and that includes like Western groups as well. Like, I have not heard a group with better vocals than Big Mama, and the songs are also incredible. Probably not for everyone, because they're not like pop bops. They're more like The more like R&B vocals, harmonies, like all of that, everything I love basically. And the last K-pop group that I want to recommend that I've been loving recently is also, like Pixie, a new group, and that is Stacy. You've probably already heard of them, or at least heard some of their music through TikTok, because apparently their music is really big on TikTok. I don't have TikTok, so I wouldn't know, but you should definitely check them out. They have great vocals, their music is very pop bop and very catchy, and it's yeah, definitely worth checking them out if you haven't already. Okay, so that's it for this video. Again, don't know when I'm gonna be coming back, but feel free to chat to me in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to. Like I said, not promising anything regular, but if you want to keep up with when I do eventually upload another video, then subscribe below. I'll leave some social media links in the description. I don't really use my book Twitter anymore. I only use my like K-pop Twitter, which is private. Same with Instagram, actually. I only use my private account. But you can check me out on Goodreads to keep up with what I'm reading if you want to do that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it all the way to the end, have a lovely day. Wear a mask, get vaccinated, all that shit. Okay, goodbye.